Hi, everybody. Welcome back to this is really ridiculous. Hi, we're reading Scum Villain Self-Saving System Volume 3. Volume 3, because we finished Volume 2. That's exciting. Anyway, I'm not distracted by anything at all. It's not like I have a ghost in my house or something. House? House. Sure. Whatever. You don't need to know. You don't need to know my business. This is so awkward for me. I don't like it.
I'm literally not even doing it.
You're picking up. I have a ghost in my apartment, and they can hear everything I say. Fucking hell. Anyway, they'll be joining us for our reading session today. They know nothing about this except everything I info dump on them about it. So. Anyway, we're on chapter 14. We're on chapter 14 called House Arrest. No way, no way, no way. It's the thing that's in the title. On page, I'm guessing like 5 or something. I don't know. It never starts on page 1. Oh, 9. Okay. Are we ready? This is the last book of the main story, and then the last book is extras. So strap in, I guess. All right. I have my tea. I think it's too hot to sip right now. But yeah, I'm not gonna even try. Let me get some water instead. But yeah, let's get started. After I situate myself, because I always have to do this. A wide stone corridor. Wow, that was so bad. A wide stone corridor connected the rift between the two realms. Pair after pair of torches stretched endlessly into the distance, and the deepest reaches were cast in the forbidding gloom. The style of the murals lining both sides of the corridor and the ominous atmosphere made clear that this was Lobinka's headquarters in the demon realm. We're at his house! We're at his house! After the rift closed, Lobinka slowly released his iron grip on Shen Qingzhou. Shen Qingzhou stood straight and dusted off his sleeves, not saying a word. Neither of them had anything to say. Keeping their eyes straight ahead, they walked, one in front and one behind. I need to move this like that. Okay. What? Okay. Their footsteps made not a breath of sound, and the atmosphere was stiff and cold. Something else is still. What? The forks in the corridor of the underground palace slowed Lobinka by not even a hair's breadth. After a path full of twists and turns, the scene suddenly opened before their eyes. Architecture in the demon realm was mostly entrenched underground excavated, yes, that's the word, in excavated subterranean caves, near exposed to the moon, to the sun, moon, or stars. I'm really bad at reading today. I don't like reading when there's somebody else in the room. It's so weird. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna ignore everything, and I'm in my own world. Yes. Yes, quite. This area, however, broke through the ground overhead, allowing sunlight to pierce the interior and lend it quite a bit of life. Oh yeah, it's all coming back to me! Oh my god. Upon crossing through the door, Shen Qingzhou found the furnishings and arrangements of the room quite familiar. In fact, it was very similar to the bamboo house on Qingjing Peak. Shen Qingzhou was filled with an inexplicable fury. He really wanted to ask Lobinka, is there any meaning to this? Arranging the scene and props like we're acting on stage, dumping me in this little pen, pretending like nothing ever happened. Do you want to continue that little domestic play from your dream realm of a loving master and disciple? Acting pathetic and pitiful one moment to make Shen Qingzhou overflow with sympathy, then slapping him across the face and telling him it was all an act in the next. was it real? What was real? What was fake? He wasn't so perceptive that he could see through Lo Binka's real thoughts. How much was honest and how much insincere? While Shen Qingzhou brooded to himself, Lo Binka walked a step closer to him. A few days earlier, Shen Qingzhou couldn't have gotten away from Lo Binka fast enough, retreating 3 steps for every one he took. Now he didn't want to do that sort of thing anymore. Retreating would make him look too much like a respectable woman kidnapped by a ruffian. Too much like affected bashfulness. Even as dragon swimming in shallow waters or a tiger dripping... What the fuck is this phrase? Even as a dragon swimming in shallow waters or a tiger dropped onto the plains, if he were so shameless as to describe himself as such, he could still scrounge up his last iota of elegant and prudent poser skills. So he wouldn't sink to such a thoroughly unsightly state. He's so stupid. But he was inevitably tense, his heart stretched as taut as a bowstring. His fingers curled and his eyelid twitched. And how perceptive Lo Binka was. He took another step for what the fuck? There are so many words that cut off at the oh, hey, is my bit rate okay? Oh no. Oh no. Let's not do this again. Oh no, let's not do this again. Oh boy. Oh boy. Twitch? I think we're okay. I think it did this last time where it just was a little laggy, but then, like, the audio was still fine. Whatever, we're ignoring that. It'll be fine. Also, if my tracking is a little weird, it's because VBridger's not working today. Yay! What else could go wrong? Don't test me. Anyway. That wasn't an invitation. Where was I? Top of page 11. He took another step forward. Shizun, what do you think I'm going to do with you? I cannot guess, Shen Qingzhou said sincerely. He would never dare randomly guess at Lo Binka's intentions ever again. As reality proved over and over, he was light years off the mark every time. Lo Binka reached out his hand. Shen Qingzhou didn't move an inch, but his gaze was glued to those fingertips, following their whole trajectory. That hand was slender and unadorned. It didn't look like a hand of a young lord of the demon race who had already taken countless lives, but rather one whose master had been born to pluck strings, his hand to burn incense and bathe in snow. Jeez. It slid faintly over Shen Qingzhou's cheek, a barely discernible brush against his skin. Then it landed on his throat. Oh, buddy. Shen Qingzhou didn't know whether he was mistaken, but this hand seemed to press exactly against one of the major arteries of his neck. His throat bobbed imperceptibly. But Lo Binka pulled his hand away. The next time he opened his mouth, it was impossible to read his emotions. My blood no longer responds to my beckoning. So when he had touched Shen Qingzhou's skin just now, it had been to probe the the suppressed heavenly demon blood in Shen Qingzhou's body. It looks like in these short few days, Shizun had a fortuitous encounter, said Lo Binka. So, what are you going to do? Shen Qingzhou asked. Make me drink it again? I'll make you drink more than... What? Who said that? You'll run if you drink it. You'll run if you don't. It's the same either way. I'd prefer not to give Shizun another reason to loathe me. In front of others, he had left not a bit of face for Shen Qingzhou, but in private, he suddenly became polite and courteous. There was no concise way to express what Shen Qingzhou felt about this. Shizun, please stay here for the time being. If you are willing, you may go wherever you wish within the underground palace. Lobinka continued. I have left some people outside, but they will not enter this room. If you want for anything, simply summon them. I'll consider it, said Shen Jingzhou. Lobinka fixed his gaze on him for a time, then said, Is there anything you want? Shen Jingzhou said, Can I ask for anything? Lobinka nodded. In a sudden spat of malice, Shen Jingzhou bluntly said, Oh, god damn it, no, not the, oh man, he bugged it. Then I ask to see you as little as possible. It will be best if I never see you at all. He bugged it. Shen Jingzhou. Luobinka looked as if he had never expected Shen Jingzhou to make this sort of request. His face paled. At the sight of this, Shen Jingzhou felt a flash of what is this word? Schadenfreude? Hey, what is this word? Yeah.
I'm not good enough.
Schadenfreude?
Spell it?
SCHADENFREUDE.
You lost me at
Yeah. Okay, well, that. Felt a flash of that, but at the same time, he also felt a stab of pain, like he had been prickled by a needle. Perhaps it was because, in the past, he had never said anything so scathing and vicious to anyone. The color took a long time to return to Luobinka's face. Shizun once asked me if I wanted to become strong. When I asked you that question, I believe I also told you the purpose of becoming strong is to protect, not to plunder and slaughter, said Shen Jingzhou. No, Luobinka said in a dull tone. You had it wrong. Not everything Shizun taught was correct. Only after becoming the strongest can one keep the people they want to have securely in their palms. I finally understand. Waiting for Shizun to come himself won't do. He clenched his fist, forcefully twisting a vicious smile onto his face. So now that I've caught you, Shizun had better not think of escaping ever again. After this devil incarnate exited the scene, Shen Jingzhou pinged the system. Are you there, 2.0? The system provides comprehensive 24-hour support and a user-friendly online service. Comprehensive is enough. Forget about the user-friendly. What are my current point values? B points, 1,330. Successfully removed, laden with landmines. Tag from... Oh my god, this is so hard to read. Successfully removed, laden with landmines tag from Proud Immortal Demon Way. Unlocked achievement, rather a lot of things to roast. Keep up the good work. We look forward to your next mystery achievement unlock. Satisfaction points, 3,840. Anger points, 1,500. Heartbreak points, 4,500. Continued efforts required. Very good. Through his great efforts, in parentheses, grave digging, this stupidly cliché Salian novel had finally seen some improvement in terms of B points, though rather a lot of things to roast wasn't a favorable evaluation. It was certainly a few ticks above laden with landmines, right? Also, the anger points weren't the heaven-defying value he had feared, though the heartbreak points were high enough that he felt like he had been pricked by another needle. Averting his gaze, Shen Jingzhou said, With so many satisfaction points, can I exchange them for something? You can exchange them for a system feature upgrade. Oh boy. Shen Jingzhou's mood improved quite a bit. Okay, do the upgrade. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. With a ringing notification sound, the system bashfully began to download the upgrade package. Shen Jingzhou had a thought, then asked, Right, what's the name of this feature upgrade again? Small Scenario Pusher, Luxury Edition. Shen Jingzhou decisively jabbed at the cancel button on the download window. Crap, it's already downloaded. If it fucking costs 3,000 satisfaction points, I'm leaving a bad review. As he aggrievedly spammed the system with a laundry list of complaints, Shen Jingzhou began his life under house arrest. Luo Bingke was busy uniting the northern border demons in Mo Beijun's territory, and Xia Hualing seemed to have officially initiated her grand undertaking to backstab her dad, literally. In short, in the near future, Luo Bingke had plenty of enemies to obliterate and allies to rope in. He was likely busy with work that he couldn't extricate himself from, and for that reason, he never showed his face again. Yes, of course. Just for that reason, Shen Jingzhou, Mr. I never want to see your face again. Or maybe it was because that first day, a couple of harsh words from Shen Jingzhou had shattered his glass heart upon the ground, and he was too afraid to show his face. Shen Jingzhou tried his best to tear his thoughts away from the latter possibility. Either way, if Luo Bingke continued to leave him alone, wasn't this the exact days spent idling away to a ripe old age lifestyle he had been pursuing this whole time? Furthermore, Luo Binghe didn't act like the characters in the strange novel that Shen Jingzhou's younger sister had liked to read in his previous life. Her yaoi novels? Amazing. He didn't shackle Shen Jingzhou. Okay. Yeah, literally. He didn't shackle Shen Jingzhou to the bed with iron chains, blindfolded and gagged, or strip him naked and beat him or anything. You'll never be unhappy once you learn to be satisfied with what you have. Might as well just go with the flow. Bullshit. If Shen Jingzhou could honestly comfort himself that way, he'd have shit for brains. He didn't have Stockholm Syndrome. He wouldn't be falling over himself with gratitude at the slightest hint of good treatment. A fortunate lifestyle needs to be built by one's own hands, not acquired by way of charity. Understand? After failing to brainwash himself, Shen Jingzhou's fingers tightened, and a page of the book he was reading tore in his hands. At the same time, a louder sound of cracking bamboo came from outside the window. He lifted the curtain and saw a group of demon servants hurrying about. Poking his head outside, he asked, "What are you doing?" "Master Shen, what brings you outside?" The servant had an extremely enthusiastic and deferential attitude, completely unlike someone speaking to a person under house arrest. He smiled and said, "We're planting bamboo over here." Shen Jingzhou started. "Bamboo?" You should recognize this human realm plant. It's hard to plant here in the demon realm, and won't grow properly, but our lord is determined to cultivate it here, so everyone just has to find a way. Hey, can you stop? Ugh. Anyway. Observing the servant's strength and the way he moved, Shen Jingzhou knew he was definitely no ordinary manual laborer. The demons Luo Binghe had recruited from the major demon tribes' fighting forces were doubtless their cream of the crop. To make these martial experts do odd jobs was categorically a waste of resources. And that wasn't even the end of it. For the first 2 days, Shen Jingzhou had neither the mood nor appetite, but on the third day he lost interest in Enedia and gave a few reserved instructions to, i.e., flirted with, a pretty pale and busty demon maid, calling for a meal to be delivered. Before he had taken even 2 bites, he lost the will to continue. The maid tilted her head. "What is it, Master Shen?" she asked with a grin. "Is the flavor not good?" The flavor was good, very good. It was precisely because it was too good, an extremely familiar kind of good, one that Shen Jingzhou hadn't tasted for years, that he could not continue. He put down his chopsticks and asked, "Did you make this, miss?" The maid giggled. "How could that be? I only know how to..." Sorry. 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 I only know how to kill and eat the meat. What? I only know how to kill and eat the meat fresh, or wait for it to rot before eating. I don't know these human recipes, with all their fire and rice, oil and salt. Far too annoying. Fuck. So this beautiful, clear-voiced demon, with her sweet, orchid-scented breath, was a lover of rotten flesh. What does an orchid smell like? Anyway. Shen Jingzhou could just tell that making this girl clean tables and sweep the floor every day was a profound debasement. He figured that her abilities were probably more suited for slaying her enemies with a set of broad axes, as opposed to chopping melons and vegetables, and it was very likely that she had once held that exact job. Then who made it? Shen Jingzhou asked flatly. Aiyo, this I dare not say, said the maid. My lord would definitely kill me if I did. Dare not say? Why, would he be somehow unable to taste the truth as long as she didn't? Shen Jingzhou put down the chopsticks, then picked them up again. What was that saying? The hand that has received is hesitant, the mouth that has been fed is weak. Shen Jingzhou fretted hard over whether, after finishing this meal, he could still self-righteously express dissatisfaction with Luo Binghe. But in the end, the cook was too familiar with Shen Jingzhou's tastes and eating habits, and in the midst of his fretting, he unknowingly managed to clean his plate. The maid cleared the dishes and left with swaying hips, covering a smirk with her hand. Not long after she left, the curtain lifted, and Not long after she left, the curtain lifted, and a person wobbled their way in. At the sight of this face, a vicious feeling sprang from Shen Jingzhou's gut. Greeting him with a spiritual blast, he yelled, "Airplane shooting towards the sky! Fuck your—" Shang Qinghua frantically raised his hands to block, raising a still-sheathed sword between them to absorb the attack. Hey, don't! 1,000 times don't! Good Master Shen, you can't just fuck around with whoever you please now. If you fucked around with me, well, it wouldn't end well for me, but don't think that guy would let you off easy either. You sold me out, Shen Jingzhou roared. What about what about our friendship? What of being comrades from the same hometown? Since when did we have a friendship? Unless it was a love-hate relationship all along, Shang Qinghua retorted. Stop that. It hurts. What the fuck? I said that wrong. Stop that. It hurts. I love him. Sorry, I'm getting too excited. It hurts. What else could I have done but sell you out? That's esteemed Master Luo, okay? Even if I hadn't sold you out, he was about to guess anyway. Why would I take an extra beating for no reason? That would have been pointless, so I chose to confess for a lenient sentence. Shen Jingzhou was shocked by the matter-of-fact shamelessness of this reply. In this moment of inattention, Shang Qinghua strode over and sat down at the table with a lift of his hem. He slapped the sword he was holding down onto the table. Let's not talk about this anymore. I was ordered to deliver something to you. Once Shen Jingzhou got a better look at this sword, his hand was already reaching out to touch it. It was the very sword that had been shattered to pieces by his collapsing spiritual energy when he had self-detonated, the misfortunate Zhu Ya. Shen Jingzhou retained an emotional attachment to Zhu Ya, and as soon as he grasped his former sword in hand, he had no more attention to devote to beating up Shang Qinghua. Drawing the blade from its sheath, it was as pure white and snow-bright as it had ever been, slender and elegant. Its broken pieces had been seamlessly reconnected, and it overflowed with spiritual energy, with not a hairline fracture to be seen. To the side, Shang Qinghua let out a squirrely laugh and rubbed his hands, clicking his tongue. I really never thought that the storyline would warp up to this point. Remarkable, truly remarkable. The stallion novel protagonist you wrote turned gay, said Shen Jingzhou. Shouldn't you be angry? That doesn't matter, Shang Qinghua said sincerely. Either way, the one he's got his eye on isn't me. Oh boy. Oh, do you have a big storm coming? It's fine. It's only my favorite side chip ever. Shen Qingzhou gave him a cordial middle finger, then looked back down to polish his sword. Shang Qinghua gave him a thumbs up. Really, you don't need to be so pessimistic. You have good prospects for the future. Quite good prospects. Those golden thighs, they're thick and sturdy, very reliable. Shang Qinghua. Take your fucking golden thighs, said Shen Qingzhou. At least those are just thighs. Where have I ended up? Where have I ended up? Between the thighs. My guy. He's It's gay. It's done me. What did you expect? Between the thighs is even better. A man's most important object is between the thighs. If not for the fact that Shuya had only just returned to Shen Qingzhou's hands and he couldn't bear to use it for filthy things, he really had the mind to slice off a chunk of that object between Shang Qinghua's thighs. Not in the mood for this buffoonery, his face grew serious again. Since you confessed for leniency, I'll ask you, did you ever establish any settings for the character of Tianlang Jun? It's him! Oh my god, hi, Brad. First thing I hear when stream lows, it's gay. It's very gay. It's very, 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 very gay. Hey, 420! Slay. Anyway. Oh, it's so gay. Why are you asking about Binga's dad? Shang Qinghua replied. No real reason. I just thought it strange how you didn't write a whole thesis on the protagonist's father. I know for a fact that you can crank out 1,000,000 words by adding another wife. You could definitely serialize for 3 more years by adding a father. Shang Qinghua's ears pricked up. Ooh, my ear pricked up. What the fuck is happening? Ooh, 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 what the hell? What the hell? Okay. You really have an eye for this. Undeniably a faithful reader of mine. I can tell you that originally I was writing from a grand outline where Binga's dad was the final boss, but as I wrote, my computer died, so I lost my outline and I forgot a ton of the details. And back then, everyone in the comments section was saying they wanted to see the other plotline, right? And the one where Binga bravely conquered 100 flowers, you understand? A whole 100 holy flower spirits who had, from their birth, never laid eyes on a man, and all of them and all of them virgins, of course. Why? I don't know why I expected anything else from that sentence. Cucumber bro, how I suffered while writing the chapter of the 100 flower buds' first mass blooming, and you still roast me. Honestly, fair. That is fair. I would struggle too. Shen Qingzhou responded with silence. At long last, he knew where all of those plot holes had come from. So when you went to write the harem subplot and decided to leave the more serious plotline of Binga's dad full of holes. I read that so wrong, god damn it. So you went to write the harem subplot and decided to leave the more serious plotline of Binga's dad full of holes. Actually, leaving it full of holes was no big deal, right? As long as the readers were satisfied, said Shang Qinghua. All the maidens who should have been bedded were bedded, and all the cannon fodder who should have been killed were killed. Pursuing another plotline that everyone might not be interested in would have been grueling and thankless. I needed to make a living. If the subscribers jumped ship, I wouldn't be able to feed myself, Cucumber Bro. Net readers really don't have it writers really don't have it easy. Except airplane shooting towards the sky had too much fun cutting down those outlines, and the system's strict sense of responsibility was making Shen Qingzhou fill all the holes Shang Qinghua had dug while abandoning his artistic principles. In fact, I was also forced against my will, Shang Qinghua continued. In my original outline, Qiang Nanjun had purer blood than Binghe. His martial power was stronger. He'd earned his fame earlier. He was just more badass all around. A proud and carefree wanderer of the three realms, standing far above the common sort or whatever. And he even had a deeply moving tragic backstory. Very Gary Stu, right? What if the readers thought he was stealing Binga's spotlight and started protesting? What would I do then? You know Binga's fans are very vicious. Vicious when fighting and also vicious when giving tips. Shen Qingzhou knows. Shen Qingzhou facepalmed. Hearing this confession from Great Master Airplane, he was starting to worry. If Qian Langjun really had been released, would Lord Binghe even be able to defeat him? But looking at it from another angle, maybe it would be possible to use the father to curb the son? Shen Qingzhou immediately snuffed out that dangerous line of thought. When it came to an opponent you knew nothing about, where even their moral alignment was in question, stupidly attempting to use them could result in you dying without even knowing the reason why. So the conclusion was still rock solid, unchanging even after 10,000 years. Great Master Airplane flying towards the sky. Why is it flying towards the sky now? Why is it not shooting towards the sky now? What? Great Master Airplane flying towards the sky truly was a genius of a generation, a man of unparalleled literary brilliance. Trying to remember anything from Scumville plot-wise is so funny. All I remember are kisses and moments. It's so stupid. I don't even remember as soon as I pass it. As soon as the scene is over, I'm like, how did we get here? I don't remember. I'm just happy to be here. Shen Qingzhou slapped the table. Be straight with me. List out everything you planned, but didn't write when you changed the outline. The important things first. I don't know what's important or not, but there is a part that has to do with you, Shang Qinghua stammered. Or more precisely, that it has to do with Shenju. Before, I was always embarrassed to say. Upon hearing this, the hair on the back of Shen Qingzhou's neck stood up in horror. Knowing Airplane flying towards the sky's shitty tendencies, it'd be a wonder if he had given Shen Qingzhou a normal backstory. Why is he flying towards the sky? I don't understand. Where did we make this? Where did we pivot? The plot went over my head a bit, not gonna lie. It's ridiculous. I don't think we need to know what happened in the plot, to be honest. It's all just vibes. But why is he flying towards the sky now? Is this a joke that I don't get? Is this... I'm not on the inside. On the outside, always looking in. Where was I? Yes. Just tell me, he said, holding his head in his hands. I can take it. Shang Qinghua embarked on an impassioned explanation of his artistic concept. I had a lot of ideas for the character of Shen Qingzhou. I had hoped to portray him as a well-rounded three-dimensional character. He's scum, he's wretched, but he has a reason to be scum, as well as a not scummy side. But the readers didn't really buy it. As soon as I inserted signs of his development, they started griping in the reviews. So I saw the winds weren't blowing in the right direction. Am I right with that? Oh, no, it's way. And immediately turned him into a tropey and wretched asshole. But really, Shen Qingzhou had turned his full attention to the explanation when suddenly the maids outside the room chorused in a respectful tone, My lord, this is really the worst time you could have come. At this, Shang Qinghua's expression transformed, and he jumped a meter off the floor, like his butt had been lit on fire. I'm sorry, for a second there, I thought that butt had 3 T's. but I think I am crazy. Anyway. Rushing toward the back door, he shouted over his shoulder. That man of yours is here. Let's do it later. Wait, I mean, let's chat later. I hate them. Don't go. Shen Qingzhou fruitfully reached out after him. Screw your let's chat later. Cutting off at this sort of point is even more unbearable than that cheesy cliche where the eyewitness at death's door says the killer was, and then coughs up a mouthful of blood and dies. The green curtain lifted, and Luo Binghe stooped to enter the room. Shen Qingzhou immediately assumed an unruffled expression. However, because his very important and serious discussion had been cut off, he looked rather displeased. Luo Binghe's gaze alighted first on the Shuya sword in his hand before shifting upward. After a brief silence, Luo Binghe was still the one who spoke first. It seems that Shizun has not slept at all these past few days. Speaking of rest, Shen Qingzhou immediately thought of dreams. Speaking of dreams, he couldn't help but remember all the embarrassing things he had done in the dream realm to console Luo Binghe. Shen Qingzhou rubbed his nose and said, If I could sleep without dreaming, I would be happy to. Luo Binghe's eyelashes lowered slightly. After standing there for a while, he seemed to gather all his courage before his next words stiffly... Before his next words stiffly Before his next words stiffly left his mouth. The page was changing. Who was saying this? Oh, Binghe. Okay. Although I hid some things from Shizun in the dream realm, none of the feelings I revealed were fake, were false. Same thing. Shen Qingzhou sighed. Luo Binghe, at present I really don't know which of your words are true and which are false, he said honestly. Therefore, don't bother saying such things. The Luo Binghe in that dream realm had why can I never say this word? Indubitably. Such a stupid word. Been much cuter. Even though that dream protagonist was still this protagonist, his look then, with his insides all twisted up in misery, on a face that wasn't half bad at that, left even a straight guy like Shen Qingzhou with no option but to pity on him. But the more pity Shen Qingzhou had felt then, the more painfully his face had been slapped after. Luo Binghe had claimed that the events in Jinlan City were not his doing, and at the time Shen Qingzhou had believed him about 9/10 of the way. Now he didn't dare entertain even 1/10 of that belief. Because you lied to him, but you didn't. But he didn't lie to him. But he didn't. He actually didn't. He's never lied to him, I think. I don't think Binghe has ever lied to him. I love that. Where was I? Where was I? Where was I? There it is. Okay. Blood rushed to Luo Binghe's face, reddening his cheeks. Lifting his eyelids, he said coldly, Shizun's only concern is being angry that I deceived him, but if I hadn't done so, I'm afraid I still wouldn't be able to speak a word to you. His fingers unconsciously clenched together and tighter on Shinmo's hilt, until his knuckles went white with the strain. A faint red glow extended from his pupils to even the rims of his eyes. As if Shizun never deceived me. Wait, what? Yeah, no, okay, this is still him. As if Shizun never deceived me. You said you didn't approve of assigning much importance to the difference between races, yet in the blink of an eye you changed your tune and refused to admit it. For the 5 years after your death at Huaye City, I summoned your soul thousands of times, failing with every try and trying again with every failure, but I never let my hopes grow cold. Despite this, I never suspected that Shizun would scorn me to this extent. To have already returned to the world, yet coldly look on as I lost my mind and made a fool of myself. He's so sad. At the end of Luo Binghe's tirade, tirade. His final syllables were somewhat unsteady, the pitch of his voice rising in what could have been fury or exasperation. Of course, Shizun has abundant reason to denounce me as a devil incarnate now. I've wrought disaster across the land, but why is it that even when I'd done nothing at all, I was still shunned like a snake or scorpion? You've deceived me twice, and I've deceived you twice. Isn't that entirely fair? Even though he felt this 1-for-1, 2-for-2 logic was not even a fraction off the mark, Shen Jingzhou still couldn't help but say, "You really cling to your grudges." Lo Binka sneered. "I'm afraid Shizun has never seen what I'm like when I really hold a grudge against someone." His face gradually settled into a grim expression, and he closed some of the distance between them. "But what if I said that when it comes to Shizun, I only cling to memories, not grudges? I probably wouldn't be, I probably wouldn't believe, I probably wouldn't be believed, would I?" As the shadow Lo Binka's figure cast increased in size, Shen Jingzhou hurriedly said, "Compose yourself. If you want to talk, then talk properly. Don't suddenly change attitudes, and don't come so close." "Shizun, you can always compose yourself," Lo Binka said in a low voice, "but I can no longer do the same." Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! What's gonna happen? Shen Jingzhou hadn't fully processed what exactly was going on when, with a thud, his back began to hurt. The next thing he knew, the two of them had already rolled onto the bed. It's been so long since I've slept on this bamboo bed. Holy shit, it's fucking hard. That's not the only thing that's hard. Hello? VTube Studio, what are you doing? What are you doing? Okay, anyway. Shen Jingzhou yelled, "You insolent!" Lo Binka pursed his lips and refused to speak. Just as Shen Jingzhou thought to kick him away, goosebumps erupted over his skin from head to toe. A hand suddenly reached into his inner robe from the hem. "You've got to be kidding me." He violently jerked his knee up, but Lo Binka caught it with a single hand, using his momentum to press it against the side of Shen Jingzhou's body. Shen Jingzhou internally yelled crap 100 times. He didn't want to be forced into a position where he was lying under another person with his legs spread eagle. He immediately snapped his torso upward, and with a well-timed burst of energy and a twist of his waist, flipped them over in a 180 reversal, pinning Lo Binka under him. Shuya unsheathed 3 inches, coldly pressing against Lo Binka's throat. This was the first time in Shen Jingzhou's life that anyone had forced themselves on him, and he had subsequently been forced into a rage. "So you're trying to take advantage of your Shizun? How filial." He was indeed at someone else's mercy now, but no one could expect him to quietly submit just like that. Lo Binka's escape routes and the vital point on his neck were all at Shen Jingzhou's mercy, but his eyes were dazzlingly bright. Not fearing the sharp blade at his neck in the slightest, he grabbed Shen Jingzhou's wrist with one hand, then braced the other one against the ground. With a vigorous lunge, he reversed their positions again. Of course Shen Jingzhou wouldn't let him do as he wished, and jabbed at an acupoint with Shuya's hilt. After a few such exchanges, they had brawled themselves into a heap. They rolled off the bed, tumbling the whole way, white flashes and sparks exploding in every direction, spiritual and demonic energy churning in a confused fog, spiritual blasts flying at random. Shen Jingzhou had spent too long being a poser. He didn't know how long it had been since he fought in such a crude manner. Only after the brawl reached its peak did Shen Jingzhou have a sudden realization. That's not right. This is a cultivation novel. Why the fuck am I fighting with my bare hands? What sort of dumbass has a cannon he doesn't use? He immediately raised his hand and pumped it full of spiritual energy and sent an earth-shattering punch toward Lo Binka's lower abdomen. Lo Binka took the blow bodily without making a sound. Oh my god. it this? Are you being loud? Yes. Okay. La 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 la. Okay. To tell the truth, Shen Jingzhou hadn't expected to truly hit Luo Bingke, but he didn't stop this punch from feeling extremely satisfying. It was like all the pent-up anger had been building in him for the past few days had been smashed out along with it. Suddenly, the system chirped with a congratulatory notice. It's a sparkle yay emoji $sign comma sparkle. Congratulations, satisfaction points plus 500. Shen Jingzhou was utterly speechless. Luo Binghe was really a tried and true masochist. The kind who was happy being roughed up, hit him once, and earned 500 satisfaction points. Even the system notification had become a lively and flirtatious emoji. And on top of that, it came with a never-before-seen pair of tildes. Oh yeah, it does. So stupid. Shen Jingzhou had never met a greater weirdo in all the years of his life, and this weirdo was one he'd raised himself. Shen Jingzhou was bemoaning the failure of his pedagogical what is this word? I don't know what this word is. A failure of his results, but Luo Binghe wasn't playing anymore. He flicked his right hand and Shen Jingzhou accidentally released the spiritual energy he had been holding. With a bang, it smashed a beautifully shaped hole in the ceiling. Dust drifted downward, blocked by Luo Binghe above him. Luo Binghe's hands tugged at Shen Jingzhou's outer robes, easily tearing them apart. Hit me all you want. You can't kill me either way. This disciple gladly accepts Shizen's instructions, he said, a smile on his face. This kinky-ass bitch. God damn. Oh, hi. Hi, welcome back. He's crazy. He's crazy. But a mournful tone seemed to hide behind that smile. Distracted from even how his clothes were being torn off, Shen Jingzhou's heart clenched, and he involuntarily stopped moving. But Luo Binghe didn't give Shen Jingzhou any more time to pity him. Suddenly, a hand ripped open his inner robes and crept to his waist, skin to skin. Shen Jingzhou went limp for a moment, then slammed his sword hilt into Luo Binghe's forehead with a thud. You beast! That was so bad. Whatever. Luo Binghe seemed to have given up on himself. If Shizen sees me as no better than a beast either way, I might as well live up to expectations. Shen Jingzhou wanted to laugh in anger, but suddenly his vision blurred, his body swayed, and Shuya crashed to the ground. There was something retching at him, like his whole soul was about to be pulled out of his body. He could only go stiff. Luo Binghe also stopped his movements, shocked. A mere moment later, Shen Jingzhou's head began to hurt like it was going to explode. Countless shattered scenes flashed before his eyes at top speed. Sometimes blank white, sometimes a pitch-black mass, and sometimes he even saw vague human figures. His eardrums stung from the sharp ringing in his ears. Luo Binghe couldn't spare a moment for caution. He hurriedly vaulted into a seating position and reached out to hold Shen Jingzhou down, but he couldn't manage to keep him still. It was like a giant pair of hands were roughly dragging Shen Jingzhou's brains and soul out of his body, and he held his head, rolling back and forth on the ground as he struggled. Something was screaming, stretching hands towards him from every direction, screeching and tearing at his soul. Shizen, I was just trying to scare you. Don't take it so seriously. What's wrong? Luo Binghe cried out in a panic. Don't take it too seriously, my ass, my boy. Boy! Shen Jingzhou's body thrashed back and forth in his embrace. Luo Binghe held him. Oh my goodness. My apologies. Hang on. God damn it, we're almost at the end of the chapter. Okay. Please do not perish. Okay, I'm gonna get. Oh no, I'm gonna get isekai into. Wait, this is my favorite. Wait, how is that gonna work? How is that gonna work? Oh no. Right. What? Yes. Huh? Okay. I'm gonna start over from this paragraph. Shenjing's body thrashed back and forth in his embrace. Lobinka held him with one arm, hurriedly scanning his body with spiritual energy. And though there were no abnormalities, Shenjing's screams were horribly shrill, as if a red-hot piece of iron had been poking right through his brain. Lobinka tried everything he could think of to no avail. As Shenjing's pulse grew weaker and weaker, Lobinka began to tremble faintly, then more and more violently. In the end, he couldn't keep himself upright anymore, and he collapsed from his half-kneeling position until both his knees collided with the ground. "Guards!" he yelled. "Every one of you, get in here!" Oh no! Oh no! Don't stick out your tongue. Oh no! What's happened to him? Oh heck, oh no, you get to be a cool cultivator. Heavens forbid. Heavens forbid. Actually, it's like, if I got put into this, I'd be the person that I hate the most in this book, right? And I only hate one character in this whole book. Or maybe two. Maybe I hate two characters. I don't think I can say it yet without spoilers, but I mean, we kind of all know. We kind of all know who they are. We kind of all know. But that's the end of the chapter. My lord. My lord. My lord. Oh my lord. Oh my lord. Oh. Sorry, there. Oh. Guys, do I continue? 3 words / characters? You'd be the. I don't know what that. Don't know. 3 words that. No, I think it's 4. Anyway, that's the end of the chapter. The next chapter is called Holy Mausoleum. Holy moly. Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, okay. I was thinking Huanhua Palace Master, but yeah, that makes sense. That makes more sense. Fuck that guy. I don't want to be that guy. No. I don't want to be that guy. Oh no. Oh no, oh no. Okay. Do we continue and like stop kind of in the middle of this chapter? Or do we stop here and just read it next time? Wait, how many pages is this? How many pages is this? 64, 29 to 63? How many is that? How many pages is that? Someone do the math. 30? A bit more than 30? Wait, we only read 20 pages right now. You know what? Let's continue. We only read 20 pages. But I will be taking a short little ad break. Before we start that. Before we get there. Oh no, what a cliffhanger. I wonder what character is going to be introduced in the next chapter. Alright, I'm gonna I'm gonna take a little break. I'll be right back. BRB starting now. 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, bitches, we're back. We're back. Holy mausoleum. Holy mausoleum. We're on page 29 for chapter 15. Well, why are these chapters so long? And like, we're on the third book and there's only 15. We're only on chapter 15. I don't understand. Holy mausoleum, Batman. I don't understand that reference, but sure. Sure. I love this chapter. I love it. Actually, I think I like the next chapter more, but we'll see. I don't really remember exactly how this goes. But we might get to the first illustration of this book. And this one. Oh yeah, okay. Ah! Sorry, I'm gonna be really excited for our next reading session. Because keyword coffin. Anyway, next. Until then. Old-timey Batman's always had Robin say wholly different word each time. Batman? Oh, okay. You see, I would not have known that. No way, Jose. Alright, let's get started. Is he dead? I don't know. Clearly not. Shen Jingzhou's eyes shot open. It was pitch dark. Pitch dark? Pitch dark? Is that a phrase that we use? It was pitch dark? I usually see or hear pitch black. Pitch dark? Anyway. His heart raced, eardrums seeming to hammer alongside his pulse in order to demonstrate whether it was just so dark that he couldn't see his own hand in front of his face, or what? No, in order to determine whether it was just so dark he couldn't see his own hand in front of his face, or if he had in fact gone blind, Shen Jingzhou really did stretch out his hand to test his vision. Before he got very far, his fingertips hit a sturdy wall. Shen Jingzhou began to slowly feel around. After a while, he had a basic sense of his surroundings. He was currently inside a cramped space. It seemed he had been placed in a rectangular stone box. I wonder what it could be. He lightly patted the stone walls to find that they were ice cold, the material slick and smooth like marble. When he surveyed them with spiritual energy, he found that they weren't too thick, probably no more than 4 inches. He felt around some more, sucked in a breath and held it, then abruptly struck out. With a rumble of spiritual energy, he landed a heavy blow in the center of the stone cover above him. After 3 strikes in a row, the darkness split apart into pieces along with the sound of shattering rock. Fresh air poured in. Shen Jingzhou abruptly sat up and drew a few deep breaths before he discovered the air wasn't fresh at all. Instead, it was like underground air that had sat stagnant for years. And it was extremely thin. When he looked down, he found he was lying in a coffin. Dun dun dun! Wow. This rectangular stone box was, it seemed, a finely sculpted stone casket, pure white like jade. Shen Jingzhou placed a hand lightly on the edge of the coffin and leapt out. Looking around, he found he stood in a dimly lit stone room. The coffin whose lid he had blasted was placed on an altar in the center of the room, and assorted piles of dusty objects were strewn around the corners. Weapons, gemstones, books, bottles, and jars lay scattered about. The glint of blades and the glow of jewels shone beneath the thick layer of dust, sending faint light flowing about the room. He's a vampire now? No, don't get my brain thinking like that. Oh my goodness.
What?
Shut the fuck up. Hey. Oh, I got so thrown off. The walls around Shen Jingzhou were painted with murals of demons in crazed revelry surrounding him from all the sides. The holy mausoleum of the demon race. This was Shen Jingzhou's conclusion. Before he could digest this information, he inadvertently looked down and was struck dumb by another piece of information. His body wasn't the one grown from the sun moon dew mushroom. This was Shen Jingzhou's original body. The holy mausoleum purportedly, I think that is based off of the word purpose. But what? Purportedly housed the means by which to revive the dead, and it looked like this really wasn't heresy. Given the situation, it was likely that someone had snuck Shen Jingzhou's corpse into the holy mausoleum, then activated a soul-summoning array, yanking him away from his new body. The holy mausoleum was a restricted area for the demon race. Generations of supreme rulers had been entombed there after their deaths. Anyone who entered without having reached that lofty position would die. But Shen Jingzhou had been brought inside as a corpse, and only after his soul returned to his body had he started breathing again. By essentially taking advantage of a loophole, he'd gained the chance to play tourist. Shen Jingzhou tried and found that the flow of his spiritual energy was perfectly fine. Luo Binghe had said he spent 5 years restoring the meridians of this body. This turned out to be true. As for without a cure poison, Shen Jingzhou didn't feel any unresponsiveness at present, but he didn't know if its effects had been dispelled. Oh, you will know. Once the soul had been placed into a body created from a dew mushroom, the second the soul was taken away, the body would quickly wither and die. Shen Jingzhou couldn't guess what sort of expression Luo Binghe would have on his face, standing in front of that withered and dried-up body of his. But before his thoughts could drift, the system chirped with a message notification. Gentle reminder, you have entered the advanced level plot scenario, the Holy Mausoleum. A plot filling a plot hole filling quest has been issued. Please rise to the occasion and take the initiative. Shen Jingzhou gave an O and continued to crouch in place. Please rise to the occasion and take the initiative. Shen Jingzhou didn't move. Alert! Please rise to— I know, off with you! What a pain in the ass. Shen Jingzhou exited the room, thinking back on the Holy Mausoleum subplot in the original novel as he walked. Residences in the demon realm were hidden beneath the earth while their mausoleums were built above ground. In short, all their customs were the complete opposite of the human realms. Not only was the mausoleum filled with layer upon layer of wicked mechanisms, there were also countless demonic beasts guarding the tombs, hiding in the shadows. If it weren't for the system's diabolical chattering, he'd have to be on drugs to try wandering around these tomb corridors. The corridors were extremely dark, but Shen Jingzhou didn't use a fire spell. He held his breath and silently walked onward. Not long after, he began to hear the slow and heavy sounds of breathing. Or, he called it breathing, but it was actually more like the gasps of the dying. Shen Jingzhou stood still. They had shown up entirely too fast. From the darkness, a lone, rail-thin figure gradually emerged. Next, a second and third followed right behind, slowly drifting closer like wandering souls. These figures swayed thrice with every step, getting closer and closer. Shen Jingzhou didn't make a sound. Turning sideways, he slowed his breaths as much as possible. Of all the demonic beasts guarding the tomb, these were one of the lowest levels with the highest encounter rates. Blind corpses. Blind corpses were called blind, but in truth they wanted for not a single eye. Instead, they had a few extra pairs more than other monsters, all squished into their faces. It made for an incredibly bizarre sight, and they would definitely make anyone with trypophobia ache with disgust. Yuck. However, although they had a lot of eyes, their organs were basically useless. Most of the time, blind corpses were sightless, even with their eyes open, their efficiency dismal as they wandered and patrolled the Holy Mausoleum. Though their eyes were both numerous and large, their organs were to a one very severely degenerated. However, these eyes were incredibly sensitive to light, so they could catch even the faintest reflected glow at top speed. As soon as blind corpses caught sight of something, their manner would abruptly change, and they would instinctively launch a fierce attack at the source of illumination. At that time, they would no longer move at the speed they were now, as they slowly wandered the corridors in lines. So, Train to Busan zombies, got it. In short, monsters like this weren't frightening by themselves. What was frightening was a certain object that often appeared alongside them. As Shen Qingzhou thought about this, a blind corpse tottered close, and he sidestepped to avoid it. Suddenly, a faint flame began to burn amidst the darkness. This wisp of flame was a dim green. It glowed brighter and brighter until it illuminated the entire corridor with a vivid emerald hue. Those blind corpses about to brush past Shen Qingzhou suddenly turned around. On every face were embedded 4 or 5 pairs of giant, bloodshot eyeballs glaring straight at him, where he stood, just within reach. Last breath candles. Shen Qingzhou moved with extraordinary speed, and in the next second he had flashed to the end of the corridor. But no matter where he fled, a faint green light appeared alongside him, illuminating his figure with nowhere to hide. He was fast, but the blind corpses triggered by the light source were even faster. A few blind corpses threw themselves at Shen Qingzhou, and he sent them flying. Last breath candles used the qi and breath of the living as fuel. As long as a living person or creature approached, they ignited on their own. At first they sounded like random trinkets that could be used to play tricks while traveling the Jianghu. But when deployed together with blind corpses, the effect was devastatingly brutal. Think about it. If an intruder managed to get into the holy mausoleum, no matter where they went, they still had to breathe. Once they did, the candles ignited, and you couldn't put them all out. Any corner of the holy mausoleum could house arrays of last breath candles. The throngs of blind corpses would then pounce, and only after the intruder's death would the candlelight gradually dim. Last breath, last breath. What an aptly chosen name. Take now, for example. More and more blind corpses had arrived in response to the light, to the point that the tomb corridor was overflowing. Shen Qingzhou rushed out of the corridor and stole into a room. This hall was much wider and more imposing, and in the center was a coffin placed high upon an altar. What the fuck? An altar. I can read. I have pronunciation. Shen Qingzhou leapt up and tried to throw it open, but it didn't budge. When he tried to hit it again, there was a deep thud, but it still didn't move an inch. To think it was so much more solid than the stone casket he had found himself lying in earlier. Shen Qingzhou wondered if there was someone inside. He knocked on the lid. "May I take shelter in your honored residence?" He was just saying whatever, but after he knocked a few times, a voice actually spoke from within the sarcophagus. I know that word. The voice was clearly coming from the coffin, but it was as clear as if the speaker was speaking into Shen Qingzhou's ear, not muffled at all. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. Hello? Okay. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Okay. Let me think. Let me think for a second. Wow. Okay. Brr. "Do as you please," the voice said, as if smiling. "A corpse come to life? Bro, says you. Fucking guy." Shen Qingzhou was terrified. He swept out his leg, knocking a few blind corpses off the stone casket. Then, in a few steps, jumped off the coffin himself and sent a spiritual blast at the ceiling. Loose rubble rolled down. Realizing that the stone of the ceiling was loosening, Shen Qingzhou continued to send out wild blows. He thought to collapse the ceiling and escape in the confusion, thereby burying both the blind corpses and this revived corpse beneath the rubble. But in the chaos of battle, he suddenly heard a low hiss coming from outside the tomb chamber. Shen Qingzhou looked up. It was as if two yellow lanterns were lit outside the hall, a pair of huge golden eyes like bronze bells looking his way. Within each eye was a long, slitted pupil, lending them a malevolent air. Who could it be? Who could it be? When those blind corpses heard that hiss, it was like they had suffered an incorporeal shock. They stopped in their savage pursuit and hunched their shoulders, head lowered, huddling in a shivering mass. Those lamp-like eyes held Shen Jingzhou's gaze for a while before they suddenly disappeared. A moment later, a figure strolled in from outside the hall. Shen Jingzhou wasn't surprised when he made out the newcomer's form. Oh my god, I can't pronounce it when he says it like this. Zhijilang's feet nearly slipped out from under him. He rubbed his nose. Though he felt a bit glum, he didn't misplace his manners. If immortal Master Shen wishes to call me as such, he may do as he pleases, he said with a smile. So you really were the one who stole my corpse from Chongding Hall, said Shen Jingzhou. The poison that had left those disciples black and blue all over was likely a jade serpent's venom. The fact that Mu Qingfang had been unable to find injuries during his quick inspection was because the snake's teeth were fine and small, its bites difficult to discern. With a more thorough examination, you would find the imprints of teeth in hidden places, like fingertips and heels. Oh god. Okay. Everything happened so suddenly, and I could only resort to that inferior plan, said Zhujilang. I hope immortal Master Shen will forgive me. Shen Jingzhou gave a dry cough. This everything that happened so suddenly could only be referring to that time he used the entire town supply of real gur wine to smoke out Zhujilang. Shen Jingzhou had even forced him back to his original form and ridden him quite a ways. You're summoning me to the Holy Mausoleum, he said. Did resolve a certain troublesome situation I had fallen into. Earlier you invited me to the demon realm. Now that I'm here, can you tell me what exactly your goal is? I have already explained the first reason to immortal Master Shen, said Zhujilang. A drop of kindness should be repaid with the torrent. As for the second, I was not the one who summoned immortal Master Shen. It may be best if you ask my lord directly. Oh boy! Oh, well, my face looks crazy like that. That's literally the face I'm making, though. Oh boy! Oh boy! Holy shit! Snake just give you a little nibble, no harm it. Exactly! Why he couldn't harm a fly? I did not know I could make that face on this model. That is crazy. Anyway. Very well. Where is Tianlang Jun? Asked Shen Qingzhou. Zhujilang started. I thought immortal Master Shen and my lord had already greeted each other. Greeted each other? Shen Jingzhou looked down at that stone coffin. Was the reanimated corpse in there Tianlang Jun? Strictly speaking, they hadn't greeted each other, all right. The coffin that he had been unable to pry open no matter his efforts began to shake unceasingly and slowly slid open on its own. A person slowly sat up from inside. The person propped an elbow on the rim of the coffin and tilted his head with a faint smile. Jingjing Peak Lord, it's an honor to meet you at last. Shen Jingzhou was stunned. And this is the time, and this is the time, and this is the time. Do I have to do this where I kind of have to re-save these? Because is it going to just let me drag it in, or no? No, it's not going to let me drag it in. Okay, this is just one I will do this. Just one I will do this. Save as. Wait, how do we save as? PNG. PNG. Nope, that's not where I want to save it. Okay, give me a second, alright? We need to get this illustration up no matter what. No matter what. It's important. Trust me, you'll see it. You'll see why it is important in a second. Haha. Haha. Ah, that's why. Oh shit, wait. This is why. This is why. Hee hee. Ah, hang on. There he is! Father! Father! I love him. I love him is all. God damn, he's so cunty. Oh my god. Anyway. Though this family's interests and hobbies spanned a wide range, they managed some coincidental similarities anyway, having the same unique style. The son liked to hold corpses, while the dad liked to lie around in coffins. He's legendary, he is. Oh goodness. Good lord. Good lord. You know what, Shenjin-cho, you can keep Binka. I want this guy. I want your dad.
He's so pretty.
Anyway. In appearance, Lo Binka resembled his mother, Su Xian, but you could more or less see how the shadow of his father. But you could more or less see the shadow of his father in him. For example, in the eyes, Tianlongjun's eyes were deep-set, his brow strong and heroic, the irises dark like fathomless water. In this, he and Lo Binka were very much alike. Lo Binka had a pretty boy appearance in the first place, but if his eyes had resembled his mother's too, his face would have been excessively feminine, and the effect would be lost. For another example, the smile. Both the father and son's smiles gave Shen Jingzhou an indiscernible kind of ominous premonition. I have not been the Peak Lord for many years, Shen Jingzhou cautiously replied. Yet I have long awaited our meeting, Peak Lord Shen, Tianlongjun said, all smiles. Shen Jingzhou felt it down to his bones that one's force of personality could indeed only be determined by family background and upbringing. Putting aside everything else, if you sat both father and son in the same coffin, in the same pose, Tianlongjun's kingly grace could make said coffin look like an emperor's throne. Lo Binka, however, though he was handsome, would probably still look like he was sitting in a coffin. No wonder airplane shooting towards the sky had felt threatened and given Tianlongjun's plotline a decisive axe. Being in the same space as two heirs of the heavenly demon bloodline, with the many dried, or not so dried, mummies of demon nobles as onlookers, Shen Jingzhou was under a lot of pressure. I wouldn't presume, he said with a smile that wouldn't reach his eyes, since your distinguished self has longed to meet me for such a while, why won't you come out to do so? No matter how much Tianlongjun wanted to show off, hanging out in a coffin was a little too much. Unless Tianlongjun couldn't stand. Tianlongjun's hand tapped a slow rhythm in the coffin rim. His dark irises reflected the dim green flames leaping about the tomb as he spoke in a delighted tone. Of course, would the Peak Lord assist me? Even if this was a trick, Shen Jingzhou could only forge on. He leaned forward a bit and stretched out a hand. As you wish. Tianlongjun cheerfully took the hand and stood. So he wasn't concealing any weakness after all. Shen Jingzhou was a bit disappointed. Then the weight pulling on his arm disappeared. However, he was clearly still holding Tianlongjun's forearm. Shen Jingzhou shifted his gaze downward. He was indeed still holding it, but the forearm was the only thing he was holding. Shen Jingzhou's face was blank. Tianlongjun had lost an arm, and one of his sleeves was empty, but he remained polite. Ah, it came off again. Would the Peak Lord please hand that to me? Shen Jingzhou said nothing. His hand didn't conduct a trembling of his spirit, and his hand didn't conduct the trembling of his spirit, and he calmly returned the severed arm to Tianlongjun. He and Zhujilang both wore expressions that suggested that this was all normal, and with a click, really a click, Tianlongjun snapped the arm back into place. Snapped it back into place. Are you a fucking doll? Your joints can be attached and detached just like that? Shen Jingzhou noticed that the flesh at the severed end, as well as in many other patches upon that arm, had turned violet black, looking especially frightful against Tianlongjun's pale skin. There were even faint dark patches creeping out from beneath his collar. He's a Barbie. He is. Oh, good lord. Are other things... I mean, yeah, he's detachable, but, like, how much... Hey, hang on. How much is this, like, magical, I can't say this, but, limb, equivalent is that, huh? Anyway. Honestly, he's such a Barbie. He's such a Barbie in every single aspect of the way that he is. He's so cunty, he's so, I love him. I just love him. He's an icon. If Suxian was still alive, she'd want to find out. Exactly. That's just all I'm asking. You know, it's not too crazy to ask. I don't think so. Where was I? Shen Jingzhou struggled with himself for a while. With a flutter of a butterfly's wing, he had raised more than a mere tidal wave. His initial guess that Zhujilang had used the dew mushroom to create a new body for Tianlongjun had turned out completely correct. However, it seemed that this dew mushroom body could not provide Tianlongjun with a satisfactory experience. The reason Shen Jingzhou's soul had meshed well with the dew mushroom was twofold. First, the dew mushroom had been grown using his blood and qi, and second, the dew mushroom was a product of spiritual qi. And Shen Jingzhou also cultivated with the base of spiritual qi. Why can I never say spiritual? Anyway, in essence, the two were entirely compatible. However, Tianlongjun's situation differed. He was a demon, and he cultivated with a base of demonic qi. The dew mushroom naturally reacted by rejecting him, and, as expected, it seemed there was no freshness guarantee on his new body. So, a situation wherein the body had begun deteriorating was entirely possible. Tianlongjun rotated the reattached limb, then smiled. My apologies. Come to think of it, Peak Lord Shen shares the credit of enabling us to leave Bailu Mountain. Shen Jingzhou looked at Zhujilang, who still stood silently off to the side. The snake man form he had possessed back in Bailu Forest had truly been a spectacle, a spectacle too awful to behold. Even so, in all the years Tianlongjun had been sealed under Bailu Mountain, Zhujilang had never left its vicinity. He's just best boy. He's so... And upon obtaining the dew mushroom, he hadn't used it for himself, but created a new body for his master without the slightest hesitation. What a paragon of loyalty. Did I say that right? Paragon? Paragon? Shen Jingzhou scanned the tomb's murals out in the corner of his eye with Shen Jingzhou scanned the tomb's murals out of the corner of his eye as he half-heartedly kept up the conversation. The credit belongs to Zhujilang. He laid low around Bailu Mountain for years until his chance finally came. With such a capable subordinate, Tianlongjun is someone to be admired. Have you heard my nephew's motto? Asked Tianlongjun. I have. Okay, oh my god, they're both so cunty that it's kind of hard to do different voices for them. I have. A drop of kindness must be repaid by a torrent, isn't it? Tianlang Jun's face went red, turning it an eerie color under the green candlelight. My lord, Master, what the fuck? My lord, immortal Master Shen, please do not mock me. He's so cute! Shen Jingzhou had no such intentions. He was, at present, turning the bulk of his focus toward the murals. These murals were brightly colored, their brushstrokes wild, but he could tell that the one directly across from the door was a giant woman's face. Her eyes were curved, and the corners of her lips upturned, the expression of someone overtaken by joy. Without a doubt, of the three holy tomb halls of delight, fury, and sorrow, this hall was the hall of delight. Tianlang Jun hadn't noticed anything strange. He's always been like this, somewhat hard-headed and inflexible, so he can keep entreating me to bring you here to the demon realm. What? So he kept entreating me to bring you here to the demon realm. They're such different flavors, but they do have that in common. You see? You get it. You get it. And they're both, literature fans. Oh, God. Where? Yes. Shen Jingzhou didn't understand this logic. Collecting his thoughts, he gave Jujilang a look. Does bringing me to the demon realm have anything to do with repaying a favor? Of course it does, said Tianlang Jun with ease. Because none of the four major sects will be allowed to survive. If Peak Lord Shen were still at Sangchong Mountain Sect now, you would be included with them, so obviously he didn't want you to stay there. Shen Jingzhou didn't know how to continue this conversation. Just before, he thought this fellow a reasonable sort, but after conversing, he discovered that Tianlang Jun was no different from all of those final boss villains who set their hearts on the ambitious life goal of destroying the world and massacring all the heroes. Appreciators of fine quality materials, indeed. although I think Tianlang Jun is probably less picky. He's probably quite a bit. He doesn't care. He don't care. Where was I? Where was I? How many pages do we have left of this? Ooh, oh wait, hang on a second. We might have to, like, stop in the middle of this. Yeah, there's quite a lot left, and I am getting tired. My eyes are just giving up on me, so... There's probably a good... Wait, hang on. Are they still... Where does this chapter end on? Okay, I think I know where I want to. Yeah, okay. I know where to pause. Oh wait. No, never mind. Okay. Anyway, I feel like the things he would consider interesting in a story could be things most humans would consider not worth a second glance. Yeah. He's just silly. He has a big imagination. God, I love him. I love him so much. Where was I? Yes. But come to think of it, if a nice young man of noble lineage was sealed under a mountain by a bunch of strange cultivators for that many years, it wasn't surprising that he would turn out resentful. Shen Jingzhou went silent for a moment, then tried to give a cooperative response. Is the next step exterminating the entire human race? Why would you think so? Asked Tianlang Jun, confused. Of course not. I like humans. I just don't like the four major sects. He smiled and added, on the contrary, I have a gift for the human realm. Though Shen Jingzhou didn't know what sort of gift this was, it definitely wasn't something you could put a ribbon on and expect to make people happy. A roast was just about to leave Shen Jingzhou's mouth, somewhat rusty though he was, when suddenly a tremor spread throughout the whole tomb hall. Sand and pebbles tumbled loose from the ceiling. Even though Shen Qingzhou was standing firmly, he still swayed back and forth, and he even heard the faint and distant sounds of some creature's earth-shaking roar. Alarmed, he said, "What is that?" Tianlangjun listened closely for a moment. "This is even faster than I anticipated." He turned to Judy Long. "How many?" "At least 200, Judy Long said. "Damn!" Tianlangjun laughed. "Capturing even 10 would be impressive enough. He's gone to some trouble." Shen Qingzhou didn't understand this exchange, and it didn't look like they were going to loop him in either. Tianlangjun swept a smattering of dust and sand from his shoulders. "Peak Lord Shen, for 5 years my nephew has been putting his all into helping you make a clean break from Sangcheng Mountain Sect. What do you think? Will you go with him?" "The abduction is already done, and I'm here in this tomb, so why the hell are you asking this now?" Shen Qingzhou paused. "Wait, 5 years ago? A clean break?" Shen Qingzhou's heart thumped. He blurted out, "That sower in Jinlan City was meant to be a catalyst for a clean break with my sect. No matter..." Yes, that is the end of his sentence at the moment. "No matter how you thought about it, the reasons he could never return to his sect all stemmed from the events in Jinlan City." "You ordered that sower to single me out?" Judy Long lowered his head. Tianlangjun patted his nephew's shoulder as if in encouragement. "This was originally a little experiment to relieve the famine for the southern border demons, but Peak Lord Shen also happened to be present. Judy Long merely wanted to completely remove Peak Lord Shen's desire to remain in the human realm." I love him. He's so simple-minded. "Judy, come look at this. This man has killed a plant and presented its corpse to her." And probably... I do just love him. I do just love both of them. They're so cute. They're such a pair. Anyway. Shen Qingzhou immediately turned a furious glare toward Judy Long. "This is what you call reciprocating in kind? Getting a sower to slander me? The hell? Of course a snake's way of repaying a favor would be utterly ridiculous." "Immortal Master Shen," Judy Long said quietly, "since my lord has said he will eliminate the 4 major sects, he definitely won't leave a single survivor. This humble one truly hopes that at this time... what the fuck? This humble one truly hopes that at that time..." Shen Qingzhou shoved down his anger. "Did you bring Chu Haitang too?" "I don't know this name," said Tianlangjun. He looked at Judy Long, and the latter immediately turned to Shen Qingzhou to clarify. "This humble one did not bring that woman." So had the pincer attack between the sower's accusations and Chu Haitang's sudden appearance, which had forced Shen Qingzhou to surrender to imprisonment in Huanhua Palace's water prison, really been only a coincidence? Oh, whatever. Now that things had come to this, it probably didn't matter. "What about the other reasons?" asked Shen Qingzhou. Who is this? Okay. "I indeed had some of my own reasons to summon Peak Lord Shen here," Tianlangjun replied. He continued slowly. "I must thank Peak Lord Shen for taking exceptional care of that son of mine all these years." I love him! I love him! Though Shen Qingzhou already suspected that Luo Binka was involved, his heart still clenched. He forcibly collected his thoughts and asked, "Luo Binka, what does this have to do with him?" Tianlangjun let out a chuckle and looked down. "How should I start? I discovered that for Peak Lord Shen, the feelings he nurses are especially..." He spoke vaguely and didn't even answer the question, but it wasn't difficult for Shen Qingzhou to string together an extensive chain of connections. The longer Tianlangjun used this body, the stronger his demonic energy became. In turn, the more his cultivation recovered, the more tattered his body became. Filling in with those dark patches, sooner or later, he would need a new body. This body would ideally belong to one of his blood relations, a fellow heir of the heavenly demon bloodline. If it contained two separate cultivation systems due to mixed parentage, so much the better. Who could be more suitable than Lo Binghe? Shen Jingzhou squinted. You summoned my soul to draw him to the holy mausoleum. Peak Lord Shen understands, Tianlongjun said. Lo Binghe has yet to assume the seat you once held, Shen Jingzhou reminded him. He can't enter the mausoleum. Even if he wanted to, he couldn't. However, Tianlongjun seemed to have great faith in Lo Binghe. As long as he wants to enter, he definitely can, Shen Jingzhou said slowly. No matter what you want to do, he's still your son. Indeed. Your child by Su Xian. So? Now Shen Jingzhou was sure. In the few words Tianlongjun had said about Lo Binghe, though his faint smile had not disappeared, an apathetic detachment had been evident within his words and expression. This Tianlongjun was far different from the deeply passionate and pacifistic character that Shen Jingzhou had originally envisioned. When he mentioned Su Xian, his voice didn't even tremble. He liked to call Lo Binghe that son of mine, but he didn't seem to possess any concept of fatherly affection. Not only was he not a pacifist, he wasn't even someone who believed that love prevailed over all. He had completely toppled Shen Jingzhou's long-held, in parentheses, one-sided, preconceptions. Okay, there we go. In truth, this was quite normal. Demons were cold and unfeeling when it came to relationships. They were more inclined to the pleasures of good food and the admiration of strength and power. But it shouldn't have amounted to such an utterly uncaring attitude. Shen Jingzhou was a bit uncomfortable. Lo Binghe was, in fact, someone who was unloved by even his own parents. My boy. One fatal mistake, Tianlongjun's riz cannot be contained by anyone else's body. It's true. Shen Jingzhou had always placed the black pot of blame for Jinlan City on Lo Binghe's head. It seemed that child had been wronged all this time, and he had attempted to explain himself again and again, to no avail. When they had parted not long ago, Shen Jingzhou had even viciously gouged at him with his words. He was rather dissatisfied with Tianlongjun, but if he thought about it honestly, he hadn't done much better himself. He had hurt Lo Binghe even deeper than his father had. This was the critical failure. The tomb hall fell into deathly silence. Only when a second round of tremors descended, accompanied by the roars of hundreds of beasts, did their stalemate break. The quakes this time were even fiercer, the force nearly strong enough to collapse everything around them. Shen Jingzhou wasn't able to stay upright, no matter how steady his footing, and he put one hand on the coffin. Can someone tell me what exactly this... Before he could finish the word is, the gemstone-studded ceiling overhead suddenly collapsed, coming down in chunks. All three people inside the tomb reacted quickly and dodged far away. With a deafening thud, something heavy crashed down and landed in the center of the tomb. Amidst thick, roiling dust and the haphazard glint of gems, an enormous black shadow appeared. Lo Binghe stood atop a pitch-black giant beast, sable robes fluttering amidst pale dust. Jin Mo was partially unsheathed behind him, cutting an imposing figure, and two eyes overflowing with crimson light gazed down, full of murderous intent. Dun dun dun! I'm sorry, we don't need this picture of Tianlongjun up anymore, but he's so pretty! Anyway, wow. No way, Binghe! What are you doing here? Uh-oh. That's where we're gonna end off today. Wow! Wow! Wow. Yes, and then that means we can do the rest of this chapter, and then the next the next chapter after this is quite long, so maybe not. Might get up to the scene break. Yeah. Oh my god, I love the next chapter though. Holy shit. Anyway, that is where we're stopping today, full of murderous intent. That is where I am ending, and I am writing that down so I don't forget my place. Where can I open my notes? Little notes, physical notes. It's literally physical notes. Yeah. Full of murderous intent. Okay. Thank you. I will be leaving now. I will be taking my leave. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. I will try. I think you know what's happening is I updated my driver, and that's been I updated OBS, and then I updated my driver, and now things are fucking up with my streams. So maybe I'll look into that. Maybe that is actually I really should because I'm doing a lot of streaming this week. But yeah, I will be back here tomorrow. I'll be playing Enchanted again with Foxy. Yay! That's my brother. Foxy, aka my brother. My British brother. Why is he British? I don't know. I thought I left that all behind in high school. What am I doing? Assets, book, drop down that. Okay, great. Okay. Anyway. No, it's fine. I'll be here tomorrow. I'm so tired right now. Holy shit. My eyes will not stay open. But yeah, and then on on Wednesday I canceled my Yu reading, Remnants of Filth reading, because I unfortunately do need at least a couple of days off a week. And I will be streaming on Thursday for my birthday. Yay, birthday stream. It's gonna be fun. There's gonna be lots of fun and games and stuff, and yeah, it's gonna be a gay ass time. But yeah, if you want to see what I'm doing for the rest of the week, go ahead and look at my Twitter, or also you can join the Discord. Yay! I never say that on these streams, but I do have a Discord server, and it is open to the public, and I do post my schedules there, so yeah, that'll keep you updated on stuff. But I'm gonna go. I love this book so much. Okay, I'm gonna go. Have a good rest of your day, or night, or whatever, or whatever. I'll see you later, okay? Okay. Bye-bye. Have good. Yeah. Where's my... Okay, bye.